Hello. Okay, we will start core Java session today. So I'm gonna cover basic core Java concepts, whatever is required for automation only. So first we will see a few basics of Java, introduction and OOPS concept, and then classes and functions, packages, what are these, and we will gradually move to the advanced, little bit advanced topics, not too much. That will cover constructors, static class members, and final instances, what are those. And then we will see examples of logic using the loops, for loop, while loop, do while loop, and conditional statements such as if condition, if else, and multiple ifs can be compensated with switch in case. And then we will also see OOPS concepts that are basically object abstraction, encapsulation, polymorphism, inheritance. These are the OOPS concepts. So we will see examples and theory of inheritance and polymorphism. Okay, basically overloading. Overriding comes under inheritance. So we'll see the examples and theory. And exception handling. When it comes to automation, we need to definitely know how to use the exception handling using try catch finally. And then string manipulations, basically. So we have already, I don't know, we have seen in database, but how to get substrings and how to play with the strings, stuff like that, we'll see. And arrays are not needed for automation, but we'll see the introduction. And Java library classes, interfaces are not really required, so I'll just give intro. And abstract classes, counter classes, inner classes not required. JDBC, yes, but we'll see this as part of automation, how to connect to database and run the SQL query and fetch the records and validate. So introduction. Java is first started by in 1990 by a person called Patrick Norton. So initially there was a language called C, right? C, then there was some modifications to C and additions to C, updates, and that brought light on C++, which is much more advanced version of C. But still C is better in terms of if you're really close to the machine language. C is really close to machine language and it's very, very secure. So still people prefer C. And C++ is little better in terms of usability, and you can most easily code in C++ than C. Then Java came, which is much user-friendly for the developer, because all you need to know is what methods to call and what how to overload them and how to create them, and it's much more easier than C and C++. So all you need to know is the logic to use it. So the reasons why Java is more famous, because it's simple, secure language, and it's object-oriented programming structure, and architecture neutral, and it's portable. You can run on any environment. And multi-threading is possible. And compiled language. It's not like VB script and other scripting language. You have to compile, so it will create class files, then it will run, and it's very robust. So what is the OOPS concept? OOPS concept is nothing but classes and objects, encapsulation, abstraction, polymorphism, and inheritance. Okay, so we will see these in terms of examples going forward. So Mainly the Java is a dynamic programming language. So that means that if any programming language in this allows memory allocation at runtime, and that makes it very dynamic, because whatever memory you allocate while coding time, the max memory, only it allocates at runtime. So whatever is needed, so that the memory management is much better compared to C and C++. And in Java applications, memory is allocated for primitive data types such as integer, string, all those. And like I said, it first compiles the program and creates a class file. And class files are not readable; they are not in English language, and they will compile the class file. So in olden days, we used to run the commands from the command prompt, Java C, Java compile, then Java, which is used to run the Java compiled program class file. So now you just use the Eclipse or whatever, like IntelliJ or any other. There are BlueJ and NetBeans. There are many softwares that you can run Java programs on. So most important about Eclipse is it's free of cost, it's open source, and it's very efficient comparing to others. IntelliJ is much more efficient, but it is not open source, so we would prefer the Eclipse. Okay, so before going to write a program, we will have to install few softwares, right? So all you need to install is, or download first, is Java 1.8, which is the latest version. So go to this site and download it and install it. So since I have already installed it, I don't have to go. So if you want, I'll just okay, that's fine. So you can take care of this. Okay, either you go to this site or this site and download. That will download the Java. Okay, and download Eclipse IDE for Java. So that will download and install this. Okay, always download Java for developers. Do not download the Java J2EE. We don't need that. So just download Java for developers. So either Mars or Kepler, Luna or whatever, so it doesn't matter. So, and all you need to have is for automation purpose, you need to download the browsers, Chrome browser latest version. Firefox, Internet Explorer is not needed, but Edge definitely you can download. Opera and Safari is optional again. So when you install Eclipse, so just try to open the file. It will download like this. Yeah, it will download a zip file. You can unzip it and it will unzip these files and folders. Then you can open eclipse.exe file, which will open this. So you got to do that. If some reason you are not able to open, then go to some file called ini file. Okay, so this file eclipse.ini, and add this VM. So then it would open. So you can find this ini file here, right here. So just right click and open with Notepad. Okay, and just add the line right here at the very end. So only in case it's not opening. Okay, otherwise no problem. Okay, so there are many programming languages, like I said, C, C++, Java, which are compiled programming languages, meaning it will you will create a .java file, and when it compiles this, it will create a corresponding .class file with the same name, just the extension will be different. So it will execute .class file, not Java file. So whatever modifications you do to the Java file, again you have to compile in order to run those updates. Otherwise, if do not compile, directly run, it will only run the .class file. So whatever modifications you have done, they will just remain in the Java file. They won't be executed. So every time you have to run, every time you have to compile it. So fortunately Eclipse will automatically compile when you run. So all we got to do is just click this button, run. So it will compile it. And there are other languages which are script and other languages which are interpretive languages. That means that you don't have to compile them. You directly double click on them, which will execute them. So VBScript, JavaScript are interpretive languages, and C, C++ requires preprocessor. Java does not require preprocessor. And in Java, the structure looks like this. Like I said, source code will be in .java files, and when you compile .class, this is actually called bytecode. If you ever heard the term bytecode, so the .class file will have bytecode, and this will be executed, understood by Java Virtual Machine JVM, and then it runs it. Okay. So Java will contain class and objects. So class, what is a class and what is an object? Class is nothing but a template, and object is a replica of class. Okay. So any Java program will first of all contain the package declaration. So the package declaration will come here, and then whatever imports are needed for the program you're going to write. So the package declaration is followed by import statements. For example, I'm going to use input-output functions from input.io class, or utilities, or SQL. So in order to use them, you call those methods, I need to import those first of all. So .star means whatever sub packages are all there in the IO package will all be imported. So it's not recommended to use .star because it's gonna import all which are required and which are not required. So that's gonna slow down the execution time, and so it's not very recommended. So always explicitly import whatever packages you need. So that means that if I want util dot something, so only import that sub package. So I'm just writing sub package because I don't know what's inside util. Okay, so there are some access specifiers or modifiers: public, private, protected. So public, if you make any variable or method public, that means that that particular method or variable can be accessed anywhere within the project, anywhere within the class or outside other classes. Anywhere within the project you can use them. If you declare a function or variable private, that function or variable is only accessible within that particular class. So always apply your due diligence before using these access modifiers. Protected is with some conditions. It's private, but with some conditions you can access. And static and final, we'll see. Static basically means you can only you can access those by class name directly, and static methods can only be called in static. So all those conditions we will learn. Final basically means it's a constant, so you cannot change the value of the final variable throughout the program. Okay, so these are the few fundamentals I'm just gonna explain, and then we will jump to basic programming. All right. And the methods, you might have heard about methods and functions, which are the basic building blocks of any programming language. So there are 4 types of methods or functions based on what they take and what they give. So let's say a method accepts arguments and returns a value. Okay, that's first type. So it will look like this. Example of its signature example will be like this. So public is its access modifier, and this is some function name, right? And it is returning an integer. Int means integer. Don't worry, we'll again go into details. And it is accepting 2 arguments. One is of type integer and other is of type string. So this kind of function falls into the category of the function which accepts arguments and returns some value. Okay. There are some functions which accepts arguments but do not return any value. So it will look like this. So return type will be void because they do not return any value, but they do accept some arguments. So it's not necessary that I only have to pass 2 arguments only. Okay, I can pass n number of arguments: integer a, comma string b, comma double c, comma long e, comma boolean f, whatever. Okay, so the number is your choice. So but they have to at least accept, they will at least accept 1 argument. So that will be categorized as this. And there are some functions which do not accept any arguments but return a value. It's quite opposite of the second type. So those will look like the signature. It's not definition. The top line of the function will look like this. Public string, it is returning. Some function is returning a string, but it is not accepting any arguments. All right. And there are some functions which do not accept any arguments and do not return any value. So those will look like public or private or whatever. Access modifier is your choice, but they're definitely void and do not accept any arguments. Okay, so what are the data types? We saw the data types like integer, string, right? So int stands for integer, double is for double, long, long. So double is basically which will accept floating points, and long is very lengthy. So there are some restrictions, limitations for those two. And string is another data type. Character is individual character like A, B, C, D. All those will be categorized or data type will be character. Boolean will be false or true. So just 2 values. So if you wanna just check whether it's a true or given statement is false, then you're going to declare that particular variable or the function's return type as Boolean. And the combination of strings or combination of anything can be used for using the data type array. So this is a string array, or likewise you can also declare integer array or any array. Okay, so when it comes to logic, all you need to do is you need to be able to manipulate them. So there are some arithmetic operators, you already might know this: plus, minus, multiplication, divided by. And in addition to that, we have the modulo operator, which will basically return the remainder. So when some number is divided by something, if it will also have quotient and a remainder. So when division just returns a quotient, okay, based on the, again, data type, it will return the decimal pointer, not just integral part, but this will return the remainder. And assignment operator, so you can assign. So always there will be left hand side and right hand side for the assignment operator. So something equals something, right? Something plus equals means it adds something to it, plus something equals to something plus 1. So minus equals means minus 1. So same thing, star multiplied, something equals something into something. So divided by plus and this one. And relational operators basically to compare, less than, something is less than. So these are going to be useful in conditional statements like if condition, if something is less than something, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, not equal to, and equals to. Equals to is symbol is denoted by double equals. Logical operators are denoted by and or. So basically if you want to combine 2 if conditions inside something and something, then you're going to use and. So just compare it with the where condition in SQL query. So you're going to use where condition with 2 different conditions. So you're going to club them using and. So similarly, if you're just going to take or, so pipe is used, double pipe is used for or. Okay. Instantiation is important concepts in the Java. So whenever you define a method in another class, and if that method is non-static method, okay, don't worry, just listen to this, then we will see the practicality of this. So if you want to call that function in another class, you need to instantiate that class in which the function is defined, and using that instance we can call the function. Okay, so just remember, the instantiation means in order to call the methods defined in another function, you have to instantiate that class. Okay, so like values val is equal to new values. Values is a class. Okay, so there is a function defined in the values, so I am creating an instance of it val, and using val. Okay, so this is a function assign values that is defined in the values class, right? Okay, right, already non-static is mentioned, right? So let's make it non-static only. So in order to call a static function a different class, we do not have to, we may call directly. Okay, that was a typo. Call it using class. So directly using class name, I can access it. So there are some conditional statements, like I said, if else, if else last part. Let's duplicate. Multiple ifs, nested ifs. Okay, so whenever there are multiple ifs or nested ifs, we can opt for switch case, and that is for the conditional statement. And for looping the same job repeatedly a number of times, we can use for loops or while loop or do while loop. So the basic difference between while loop and do while loop is while loop checks the condition for the first time onward, but do while loop, it will skip the condition for the first time. So basically, whenever you don't want it to check the condition for the first time, but only for the second and third onward you want it to check, then use the do while loop. Otherwise, while loop is fine. For loop is easier, so we'll stick to for loop. Okay, so there are some data types, like I mentioned, right? So integer data types, byte data type. So byte data type capacity is 8 bits. Okay, everybody knows that one byte is equivalent to 8 bits. What is a bit? Bit is basic in any program. I mean, this a whole computer system stores everything in terms of bits, either 0 or 1. That is a fundamental, right? Machine language. So each bit is either 0 or 1, on or off. 1 means on, 0 means off, right? That is a binary. So whole computer system is based on binary language. If you already studied electronics, you would know this. So 8 bits equals to 1 byte. Okay, so 1 byte is 8 bits. The capacity is 8 bits, and the range of this is -128 to +127. And if I declare anything as a byte, then default is 0. If I don't assign any value, don't initialize this value, default will be 0. And short, its capacity is 16 bits, just double the byte, and its range will be little bit more, so -32,768 to plus this side. Default will be 0. That means if I do not assign any value, it will be defaulted to 0. And integer, okay, the integer is the most commonly used after the string. So its capacity is 32 bits, just double the short, and range will be much more broader than the short, -2 billion to 0 to 2 billion. So I am talking about the scale, which has positive side and negative side in between 0. So -2 billion on the left side and +2 billion on the right side. Same thing, if I do not assign or initialize the value to that variable, integer variable, it by default it will be 0 unless and until I assign a value explicitly to it. Okay, so then comes the long capacity is double the integer, so range will be -9 billion to blah blah blah, and default will be 0. And floating points we have double, which takes a decimal point like 1.234, so these all will be categorized as double. And character, you already know, character is single character, A, B, blah 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 to Z. Okay, and boolean, like I said, there are only two values for boolean. One is true, one is false. Only two values, just like a binary, either true or false. Okay, overriding and overloading we will see. So, but just for the intro, you are just understand that it comes as a part of inheritance. So inheritance means we have parent classes and child classes, and if I want anything defined commonly for the rest of the program or automation, I would define them in the parent class. Okay, and automatically if I child classes that would extend the parent class will inherit all the methods and variables automatically, so that I don't have to redefine them. That is the main advantage. So overriding concept speaks about the same thing. This is also an important question. What is overriding? So if I define a function in a parent class and redefine it in the child class, when I call it, it will give preference to the child class. So that is overriding. And overloading will come into the polymorphism. So polymorphism means, like the name suggests, it's many forms of the same method. So we will learn about this later. Okay. So we will see a simple program, then we will go into that. So if I just explain this in the beginning, you would get confused. So I'll put a break there. Okay, so when you install Eclipse and open, it will open just like this, and go to file. First and foremost, you need to create the Java project. Okay, so let's create a Java project. Okay, so let's call the project name as Java tutorial. Okay, so automatically when I open this, I already set the location or the workspace to this location. You can set it anywhere, C drive or D drive. That means that all the project files I'm going to create will be stored under this name. Okay, this location, and it will all reside in the project name folder by the project name. Okay, you must have installed the Java SC 1.8 already. Okay, these are the older versions, 1.7, 1.6. So I do not recommend these because they are not compatible with the latest version of Selenium WebDriver that we are going to use, which is 3.x something. So do use the latest version of it, and just click next. You can click finish also. Okay, so the project will create automatically a source package. These are called packages, so think of it as a folder. And okay, so if you go to projects or libraries, it has already some system libraries that come by default as a part of Java SE 1.8. So if you want to use extra functionality, we can add the third-party external jars to this using add external jars, or we can add a library. I'll show you that later. We don't need the third-party external jars right away. So order and export is not needed, just source. Okay, and all the class files will be created in bin. /bin folder will contain all the class files. So when the class files will be created, when you compile a Java program, so all the source file, all the Java files will be stored in Java tutorial /source src, and all the class files will be stored under bin folder, binary, source and bin. So now let's finish. So this will create the project called Java tutorial, right? So you see the source folder is already created here. So under source, I can create another projects, another folders like Java, test, or library, or infrastructure, whatever I want. Okay. So initially I would just create a package called test. Okay. So we are going to test something. So always remember the package name starts with a small letter. The project name must start with a capital letter, and each new word must start with a capital letter. All right. And the package name must start with small letter, and each new word must start with a capital letter. So this is the capital case. This is called camel case. Let's say test cases. So this is called camel case. First letter must be a small case, and each new word's first letter must be capital case. So that's a camel case. So let's create test cases or tests, just tests, finish. Okay, so now I have created a sub package in the source package. Now I want to create a Java class. Okay, so right click on it and create class. So when you see class, just select it and click on it. So it will open a pop-up where you can provide the name of the Java class. So remember that the class name starts with a capital letter again. So I'll note it down, don't worry. And you see the modifiers, access modifiers, you can mention public. By default it will be public. Okay, private protected you can mention for the methods. And the superclass is always java.lang.object. And if you want to execute some program within this class, then you must specify those executable lines inside the public main function. Okay, so public static void main, and it takes string array argument type. So you can provide the runtime arguments, but these are optional, you don't have to. And it doesn't return anything, so that's it, void. And it is public because you should be able to access it and anywhere. And static, it has to be static. Okay, so name, let's call it welcome. Okay, simple program, first program, let's call it welcome or hello or anything. So this will create a comments or top level, class level comments, method level comments. You can create, this will create a class level comments. So let's finish. Okay, so as soon as it finished, it opens up the Java file. Okay, so now you see, first and foremost, there is a package declaration. So what does it mean? The particular class, the welcome.java class, okay, resides under tests folder. Okay, so source is by default, that should be there, it don't have to be specified. So the test is the package or folder in which my Java file resides. So that's what it means. So first and foremost, the package declaration must be specified. Then if at all there are any imports, like I said, there, that must be followed by the imports, right? So if at all, okay, it's not mandatory that you have to import. If at all you are using some utility related methods or SQL related or IO or math related, then you have to import explicitly, or it will be imported automatically. So Eclipse will be smart enough to import them for you, so do not worry about them. And this is the class signature. So public class welcome. So public class is a keyword, whatever is in the maroon color, okay, or burgundy color, whatever it is. So those are all keywords. That means do not use them. Okay, so I cannot say public class. That's what it means. So these are reserved for the system related keywords. So do not use them. And this is my class name or Java program name. Okay, and to do auto generated is just required for, it just mentions or it just reminds you hey, you have to incorporate or insert some coding over here. So we don't need to incorporate any coding here, so I'm removing it. And like I said, all the executable code must be inside the main function. So this is if something is not in the main function, it won't be executed unless until you have to call it inside the main function. So there are exceptions to it. Okay, so if you use different frameworks like TestNG, you don't have to use main, but we are just using simple Java program. Okay, so first and foremost, okay, just to begin with, I want to print something to the console. Simple. Okay, I'm entering some input and just want to see the output. Okay, so to print anything to the console, system is a class, and in system takes a little bit time, so you can also press Control space if you want to see all the available methods. Okay, so it takes a little bit time, but it opens. So system dot out dot, you can also select dot print ln. So or print, just print. Print ln will print and take a new line character. So if I specify this println is a function which takes arguments of string type. So I'm gonna print welcome to Java class. Okay, so now my expectation is to print this to the console. What is a console? If I want to see the output of my program immediately on my system, okay, for logging purpose or anything, debugging purpose, or just for checking the output value, I need to print it to the console. Okay, so the system.out.println statement will do the same. Okay, now save the program. I saved it. I just press Ctrl S and then run this by clicking on this, or you can also right click on this Java file, which will open a context menu, then run as, and then run the Java application. So let's see if the output comes or not. So output came. So the input I gave is welcome to Java class, and output is same. Okay, that's a simple program. So there is no logic required. All I'm doing is just printing something to the console. Okay, so let's make this little bit complicated. So I don't want to complicate the same class, welcome class. So let's create another class. Okay, so let's call this. So how do you create a class again? Right click, new class. Okay, so let's call this class arithmetic or mathematics. We will perform simple arithmetic and no complications, and this should be executable. So that means that I am not defining any methods and calling them. So straight and simple, I am going to define the class right inside the main. Okay, so I am going to define this. Okay, so let me declare few variables of type integer. Okay, integer x comma y. Okay, okay, so now that's a variable declaration. Okay, I did not assign any value, but if I do not assign any value, what will they be automatically assigned with? Default value 0. Okay, integer default value is 0. So if I directly print them to the console, their values will be 0. Okay, but we will assign some value, x equals 2. Okay, and whatever line you're writing in Java, you have to end it with a semicolon. That's mandatory. Just like SQL query, you end it with a semicolon. It's optional in some, or you can make it optional by settings. But in Java, you have to definitely provide the semicolon at the very end. And x equals to 2, I am assigning. So the currently x variable will hold 2 value and y equals 3. All right. Okay, so now we will simply add them and print the sum of these two variables to the console in a nicely formatted language. Okay, so whatever I prefix the line with these double slashes, that means that's a comment, single line comment, and the comment means it will not be executed. Just like SQL, we will mention the double dot, right? Double hyphen. So the double slash will not make the line executable. That means just for the reading purpose, just for readability purpose. So let's call this addition. Okay. So I wanna store the sum of these two variables values into another variable called z. Okay, so I'm gonna declare it also, and z equals x plus y. Okay, now z holds a value which is the sum of x and y, right? What is the value that z holds?
5.
5, correct. So now let's print it to console. Okay, I'm gonna sys out basically will automatically complete the sentence for me, like system.out.println, which will basically print something to console. Okay, so all you need to do is sys out, then control space. I'll just mention the notes also, don't worry. Okay, so I want to print something like this: the sum of x value, not x as such, x value, and y value equals so and so value, which is sum of these two values. Okay, so all the strings means all the whatever you want to print literally to the console must be provided inside the double quotes. That's mandatory, so you have to remember that. So I want to print something like this: sum of, okay, I want to print x and y, but not x and y. I want to print x value, which is 2, or whatever is given dynamically at the runtime, or I can change these values, or I can also call this from another method, so that's later. So I want to print those values. So for now, the sum of x and y, we'll just print this and we'll modify it. Equals. Then I am doing something here. What is this? This is called concatenation operator. Why I am doing? I am clubbing two strings put together, or a string with another data type. Okay, it not these two not necessarily be a same data type, but in order to club them, concatenate them, I need to use a concatenate operator, which is plus. So basically plus also does another job, which basically sums up the two numbers. It also does much more than that. It also sums up two different data types. So it's not exactly adding, but it's just combining them together. Okay, so that's why plus is concatenation operator. Okay, now let's see if it works for you or not. Okay, all you have to do is run this. Okay, but when you run, just be careful, whatever is run last time, the history, it will only run that. So if you want to run the arithmetic only, you have to right click on the same class and run as and Java application. Okay, so the sum of x and y is 5, right? But now I want to display something like this, not like this, but the sum of 2 and 3 equals to 5. That's what I want to print. Okay, so because I don't know x and y, and if you say sum of x and y is 5, I don't know whether it's correct or not unless and until I see the values, actual values of x and y. So I am gonna chunk it up into few more strings. So like this, sum of, then concatenate it with x. Okay, again another concatenation, and right, plus, okay, y again plus, again another string equals, okay. Now that will print sum of 2 and 3 is 5, okay. Now shall we run it? Now I can run this automatically, because one time if I run, automatically it will store it in the history. So when I hover over run, it will show run what arithmetic. So I am gonna run arithmetic. So if I want to run welcome, because I have already run it, I can select it. So just be mindful of the history. It will only maintain 10 last executed classes. So you can probably change this in settings, but always it's better to right click and run. So that way you're sure which class you're running. Okay, so now it looks very accurate. So the sum of 2 and 3 is 5. So if I want to, okay, there is a space required after 3. So all I got to do is just put space and always save before executing, because like I said, when you execute it, it will compile this file and create a class file. Okay, so it will only run the class file. So when you modify something like this and run it without saving, it will not run the latest code. It will run the old code. Okay, so you got to be careful about that. So let me show you quickly. Okay, so this is the project workspace I created, automation projects. Okay, and Java tutorial is a project, and source as test, and these are the 2 files. Okay, that's just now created. We have created these 2 files. Okay, so you can also open with notepad later, so they are readable totally, right? Now when I execute them, first they will be compiled, right? And like I said, there will be another folder called bin folder. Okay, don't worry about this class path project. This will be auto set. If not, you have to set. And dot settings, it will be just for the settings of the Eclipse. So bin folder will create corresponding. When I say corresponding, they will have the same paths of the paths as the source file. Okay, the Java files. So if the Java file resides in test folder, the bin file class files will also reside in the same folder. So if I run this, it will not run the source Java file. It will run the class file. So I just modified just a minute ago, right? So this is what it will run. So this, if you try to open it with notepad, it won't be in the English language or Java language. It will be in the machine language. So let's try to open it in the notepad and see, just for the first time. So this is what it looks like. Okay, so it's partly readable, partly non-readable. So however, this will run this file. That's just have to remember that. Okay, okay, so now we have run this. Okay, now we will define few more arithmetic operations and do something with them. So the next arithmetic operation is subtraction. Okay, so let's subtract one value from another and display their difference to the console. Okay, so that's our job. Okay, so I will take same thing, z, and subtract from y. I will subtract x from y. Okay, and print this to the console. So I'll just copy this because I already written it. So copy paste is very common in the programming, but do it very carefully, because there are many copy paste errors occur because of the negligence. So I want to change accordingly. So what I'm doing, instead of sum, I am displaying the difference of x and y. So the order matters in the subtraction. So if you subtract x from y rather than y from x, okay, the other value is going to be negative. Okay, one value is positive, one value is negative, because it depends on which value is greater than which, right? So the difference of, just for the language sake, I'll just say the difference of x and y is z. Okay, so now let's run this. So what it's gonna be in the console, it will display Okay, so say the answer very quickly, otherwise it's gonna display before you say it. So the difference of 2 and 3 is 1. Okay, so it's not exactly true because 2 minus 3 is minus 1. So we will make it accurate. The difference of x and y. So I am exactly not doing that. I am doing y minus x, right? So let's make it x minus y only and see if the result or output is going to be correct. Okay, so that's correct. 2 minus 3 is minus 1. Okay, so likewise we will define 2 more or 3 more modulus operator. Okay, so next one is multiplication or product. Okay, so these are very basics. I am telling these basics because most of you do not know. Okay, so if you already know, you're gonna get bored, so just bear with me. Okay, so I'm gonna direct this out and blah blah blah. And multiplication, in the case of multiplication, what I'm gonna do is instead of storing it in another variable, I'm directly gonna print it to the console, the product of x and y. So I can do so. The product of is one part of the sentence. Now dynamic values must be segregated. That's what I am doing right here. The product of x plus, so this is how you write from the scratch, and so this is like what you see is what you get, exactly what you write in the system.println in the code, exactly that's what you're going to see in the output. So you have to be, I mean, it comes from the experience, so you just need to practice a little bit. X and y, and then I can say is or equals plus. Okay, what is the product of x and y? I can directly print as x star y. Okay. Okay, now let's see if the output is correct or not by executing. So the product of 2 and 3 is 6. Okay, likewise we can create another definition, division. Okay, so instead of again storing the different quotient value, I have directly go for it. So the quotient, so when one number is divided by another, it will give quotient. If both are not, I mean, exactly divided, like it's both are not even numbers or both are not odd, it will give rise to the remainder. So we are not concerned about that. We'll just take a look at the quotient, and the quotient of x and y is quotient when x is divided by y is, x is divided by y is simply x slash y. So just to differentiate where which one takes place first and which one takes place later, I just gonna club them in the parentheses. So always if you're gonna use multiple arithmetic operations, so I would suggest use the parentheses. That way they'll stay together, and readability wise and calculation wise also they will be accurate. Okay, now let's run this. Okay, so when 2 is divided by 3, quotient is 0, obviously, right? So let's make it the other way around, or we can change the value, okay, just for the quotient. So 5 is divided by 25 is divided by 5, or let's say 35, because we are going to get the same number. Okay, so let's divide 35 by 5 and see what the quotient is. Okay, so The quotient when 35 is divided by 5 is what? 7. Okay. So let's see the last, I mean not the last, but the base in basic arithmetic, this is the last. Okay, what is the other operator? Modulo operator. Okay, which is basically a reminder. So okay, just to give it just to give you guys little intro about this, I will declare it separate, I mean define it separately and we'll print it. So x modulo y. Okay, so it's similar to x divided by y, but instead of giving quotient, it will give the remainder. So when x divided by y, when 35 divided by 5, what would be the remainder? Anyone? Simple math. Both are, this is a, yeah, anyone? What is the remainder when 35 is divided by 5? 35 is a multiple of 5, right? So obviously the remainder is 0. Okay. So let's print it to the console. So what would I say? The remainder when x is divided by y is what? This should be z. So remember, the z value keeps changing here when it always gets executed from top to bottom. When it is executing here, the z value will be addition of this, but when it comes, it will print, so you can see the correct value. When it comes to this line number 21, it gets updated. X minus y value will be stored in z, so the old value will be erased, then new value will be stored. So I'm using the same variable throughout, if you observe. And finally, when I am applying this modulo operator between x and y, a new value will be stored in z. Okay, so the same variable will hold multiple values. You can keep on updating it. So that is why in the first place these are called variables. The variable by definition means the value is varying. Okay, it's not constant. So constant is exactly opposite of it. The value is constant. That means you cannot change. So I can make it constant by mentioning final y equals, you have to always assign a value to final. So this final int, okay, I think final has to be in the beginning. Okay. Okay, y is already used, so it won't allow me to use it. So let's use a. Okay, so the final int a4. Okay, so if you try to change the value of a, it won't let you because you already declared it as final. That means it is a constant. That is not a variable. What are variables? The values which can be changed through the programming, or which you can change explicitly, are called variables. Okay, the value which cannot be changed is called constant. So okay, let's try and execute this. Okay, so all values are correct. The sum of so and so, difference, product, quotient, and remainder. Okay, so let's make it just to see the remainder different value. I'll make it 36 or 38. Okay, and now what happened when 38 is divided by 5? What is the remainder? When 38 is divided by 5, 7 is the quotient. Okay, that's fine, because there is a decimal point which is ignored, because in the first place I declared these variables are integers. That means it's only going to take integral part, not the decimal part. So if you want to take into consideration the decimal part also, you have to declare them as double. So we will see those. Okay, so when 38 is divided by 5, okay, what is the remainder? 3. Any doubts in that? I don't think so. Okay, so before that, I want to print a nice heading. Okay, so that this is the arithmetic operations. So we can also print that, or I can print in the beginning of the class itself. System out. So I am going to print a banner. So this will be useful when you automate the test case in Selenium WebDriver. We can print the test case name in the beginning, which will be useful for whoever is reading or taking a look at that. So arithmetic operations and then banner. Okay. Now let's rerun this. Okay, so arithmetic operations and all these operations. Okay, now let's try to change the value of a and see if it can be changed or not. All right, now what I'm going to do is sys out. Okay, I'm going to put a break here or just -v. So that means I'm going to do something different here. Okay, now a equals, let's say 10. Okay, now can you do this? I can do x equals any value, x equals 125. I can do y equals 246. I can do this, right? But when I try to do a equals 10, it wouldn't let me. How would I know it wouldn't let me? Because it's throwing an error right here. You see this red color? If you hover over it, it says why the question will be answered. It says the final local variable a cannot be assigned. It must be a blank or not using a compound assignment. Okay. So what it means is, hey, you declared this variable a as a final variable, and that means you already said this is a constant, which by definition means you cannot change its value throughout this class or anywhere for that matter, because it's public by default. So this will throw error right away. But these are variables, so you did not declare them final, so they're fine. Okay, so let's play a little more with different data types. What are the different data types? Floating points. If I'm gonna incorporate a decimal point into, I must declare that variable as double, right? So let's see some double operations. So let's say double P, comma Q, comma R. Okay, I can declare multiple variables in the single line, or I can declare them one by one, double P, then double Q, double R, or double PQR, doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm going to assign P 1.2 and Q 2.4. Okay, and then we will R equals to what? P plus Q. Okay, so I want to print this to the console. System.println P Q and equals R. Okay, let's see one by one so that you don't get confused. So I just want to see this output. Okay, so it actually retains the sum, isn't it? Does it retain? 1.2 and 2.4 is 3.59996. Why it is coming 999? Okay, let's take a bigger number actually. 2. Three, say, yeah. Okay. Okay, let's try to, you can perform the different operations. So basic point is double is gonna take into consideration the decimal part as well. Okay, so you can play with those. Now let's take some string. So string, I can declare two strings like first name, and like I said, all the variables names must start with small letter, and each new word must start with a capital letter. So that is a camel case. Okay. So first name equals, let's say, John, and string last name, right? Doe, John Doe. Okay, so now I want to print the full name to the console. How would I do that? Let's do it at the very end. Okay, tell me. Sysout, that means system.out.println, full name is, okay. So what should I concatenate in order to get the full name?
John and Doe.
No. John and Doe are the values. You use the variables.
Okay, so
First name is a variable,
yeah,
last name is a variable. That's what I was keep on saying, right? I'm using the variables, not the values. Values will be printed to the console. That is a fundamental to any programming language. So that's why
first
you
name and last name would be concatenated.
exactly. So whatever values I give first name, last name, it has to print. If I give John Doe directly, it will only print John Doe. That means I cannot program it. That is a fundamental bottom line, whatever you call it. So first name. Okay. So when I type part of it and just control space, it will show first name is a string. See? Right. Then what should I do? Yes.
Last name.
Okay, so before last name, every full name contains a space between first name and last name, right? John Doe is not combined one single word. So John space Doe, that's a full name. So I have to give a space. How would I give a full space here? Just a single space. Like this, within quotes. You will get used to it, but I'm telling from very basics because you're learning for the first time programming language or Java for the sake of it. So first name plus then space then
Last name.
Last name. Perfect. So last name, when I type last and control space, automatically it's showing hey last name. So I can select it instead of typing. Okay. Now let's see the output. I can input and immediately see the output. So the full name is John Doe. So that's if I don't give space, it will look like John Doe. So I don't want to see that, right? Okay, now one more thing is if I directly print John Doe here, that means every time I see John Doe. That way, if I change, for example, I want to change first name, last name here. I declared these variables and I also assign the values John Doe to first name, last name. Now I want to change their values. Now I can change those values. So how do I change? First name equals, okay, tell me any first name which is not John. Russell. Okay. Last name. Okay, let's keep the last name as Doe only. Now if I print, what will be printed to the console? Russell. Right. So what did I do? Don't worry about Russell though. That's not the point. The point is I have declared a variable called first name and assigned a value John. Now in the middle of the program I changed its value. Now whatever is the last value of that variable, that will only be shown in the output or used throughout the rest of the program, right? So that's why I'm using the variable. If I use John directly here, okay, what would happen? irrespective of whether change or don't change, all the time it will print John only, right? So that's not good programming wise. So now it will always print John. So what happened to Russell? It didn't just show. So instead, if I use variable, it is dynamic. So whatever is the latest value of that variable, it will only be used for the rest of the program, not the before program. Before program will contain whatever it was. Okay. So you can say that, hey, the Russell was the first name. Now, if I read, if what happened to John? Okay. So if I comment this now, John is still there. Okay. So only when this takes place, the rest of the program will be affected by this updated value. And if I comment this, I'm basically not using it. So original value will be displayed. Okay. So those are the string values. String manipulations, you can do a lot of string manipulations. So for example, I will create something like, let's say celebrity. All right. And I am assigning a value Shah Rukh Khan, right? Now that's a value. Okay. Now what I want to do is I want to only get Khan, last part of the name. Okay. I don't want to get Shah Rukh, or let's say only Shah Rukh, just remove Khan. Okay. So that I am trying to manipulate the name. So how can we do that? So let's print it. Let's create another variable string. Okay, just to make you guys not confused, I will declare this and right away I will modify it so that you don't have to go back and forth, you know. So we will do all these strings here. String manipulations. Okay. Okay, so now string celebrity is Shah Rukh Khan, right? Now I want to go for part of celebrity. Okay, I'm just declaring it. Now I want to get, okay, part of celebrity, let's say last name of celebrity, that will be more precise. Last name of celeb. Okay, now full name of celeb is given, first name, middle name, last name. Okay, I want to get only the last name. How would I get it? Okay, so there are string manipulation functions using which we can get. Now celebrity dot, these are all functions in the string class. Okay, so concatenate, replace, substring, to lower. Okay, so we will use some of these and see how they work. So substring is the function which actually takes the part of the string. Okay, so when I select substring, okay, there are two substrings which basically take starting position and starting and ending position. Okay, so I can take starting position for the simplicity. Now as and when I select, you can see what it will do. Its whole help thing will be displayed and including examples. So the substring will return string that is a substring of this string. The substring begins with a character at the specified index and extend to the end of the string. So I can specify the starting position and it will take from that position to the end of the string. So examples will be unhappy dot substring 2 returns happy because I gave 2 which is second position. So always remember the first starting position is 0, U is 0, N is 1, H is 2. So my position starting position is 2. So it will start from happy, goes till the end. So this will be the output. So we will see this for this celebrity string and I apply substring. Okay, just put dot. So the dot means you're trying to access the method. Okay, so the dot will make you access the method. So which substring method I want to use it? Obviously this. So this is a overloaded function of substring. So we will talk about this overloaded later. That means that the method, the function name remains the same, okay, but the signature is different. That's what it is. It means by overloading. So you can say the substring integer is overloaded function of substring integer, because this name of the function is same, only the number of arguments and the type of arguments it takes are different. So hence the word overloading. Okay, now I want to only mention the starting position substring, and it is asking me the beginning index. So what is the beginning index? S is 0, 1, 2, 3, and the space is also counted as single character. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, okay, and 10. So K's position is 10. Now if I give 10, right? Now if I print the last celeb name, what it will be printed? Only the last name. So let's see, sys out, control space, last name of, okay, I'm gonna clearly print everything. Last name of celebrity is what? Last name of celeb, right? So this will be clear. So this will be this can be reused, because whatever celebrity name, last name, whatever celebrity name I give, it will be printed accordingly. So that will be totally dynamic, not static. So let's run. So what did it print? Or did it print correctly or wrongly? The last name of Shah Rukh Khan is Khan. Okay. So let's do, okay, this actually comes under string manipulations, but I'm putting in the arithmetic only, where it's kind of arithmetic for the strings. You can say that. Okay. Now I wanna use, okay, let's actually create another class. Okay. That way we can stick to that class and do whatever we wanna do for the related operations. So I'm gonna call this as string manipulations or operations, you can say, and this is a gonna contain main method, because I'm gonna execute. Okay, so I wanna shift some of these operations to new class. All right, close this, it's not required. Okay, so arithmetic has these, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remove these and put it there, so that whatever is related remains in the class. Okay, let's call this string manipulations, right? So cut and paste, so I can paste it. So you can also do this cut and paste thing in real time. So if you're gonna define your logic in some other class, and a later point of time I thought this is not the place where this code belongs to, I can cut and paste this code into separate class. So you can always do that. Okay, string manipulations. What I was gonna do is, yeah, length. Okay, so length is integer. Now let's find out length of name. Okay, now I want to find the length of number of characters. Length of the string is nothing but a number of characters inside a string. Okay, so you can count it manually, and when I run program, you can check it against the program's output. All right, so you just count the number of characters including the space, that is counted as a character 2. So now celebrity dot, there is a function. Okay, always remember when you put dot, you are gonna get all the available methods or functions. Methods and functions both are synonymous, so same thing. So what I'm gonna do, always you know what to do. You have to know what to do. Then it will show you what you can use. So first and foremost, you have to know what to do. Then you will see how to do it. So first what to do, then how to do. So I know what to do. What to do is I wanna get the length of the name. That's what I wanna do. Okay. Now how do I do it? Okay. How do I get the length of the string? By applying the length function. That's how I'm gonna get the length. Simple. Okay. So this will return, always just hover over it. Every function has return type and number of arguments, right? I told you 4 types. Some functions do not return anything, some functions take arguments. So this is the function where it returns value but does not take any argument. So this is one of those kind. Okay, so it's whenever a function is returning something, you have to store that value in the same data type. Okay, so it is returning an integer, so I am storing in an integer type of variable so that there is no mismatch. Otherwise there will be. So if I am going to store this in a string type, it immediately shows this red line underline. Okay, that means it's an error. You can also see it right here. So that's going to cause a compilation error. That means you cannot run the program. Okay, you can also see red line here. Okay, and red dot here. That means there are errors. Number of errors 1. So if there are more, it will show the number of errors. Okay, now if you hover over the red line, it will see it will show you what kind of error what kind of mistake you're doing. So it clearly says type mismatch, cannot convert it from string to integer to string. Yeah, because this is clearly returning an integer, so you have to store it in an integer type. There is no other option. Okay, so this clearly returns, so the length of the name will be stored in here, 5 or 6 or 10. You already counted, just keep it in your mind, right? Manually you counted it and you keep it in your mind. Then we will print it to the console and see. So the length of celebrity equals plus length of name. Okay, that's it. So let's try and run this, and if you see it's matching, then you tell me it's a pass, otherwise fail. Is it a pass or fail? Did it match with your calculation? Yes or no? Did it match or no match or match?
Yeah.
Match, yeah.
Before,
If no match,
before it is 10 KHN, there are 4, so 14.
right.
And
4, 4, 4, 12, and
with
13, 14. Space is also counted. That's what I said. It's 14. Perfect. Okay. So these are all string manipulations. I'm teaching you how to use the methods. Okay. So celebrity is a string, right? And I want to get the length of that string. So all I'm doing is applying the method. Okay. Before this, before going to, these are called built-in methods. That means they come along with Java. System has already defined them. I'm just using them. Okay. So we are going to use some more built-in methods, and we will jump to creating our own methods, which are called user-defined methods. All right. Now we will see what we can do more with this. Okay. Now I want to get the index of certain character. Okay. Now what it means? What it means, if you want to know, just select it and it will display what it means. Index of means it will return the index, the position of certain character in the whole string. Okay. Now let's directly use it. The only way to learn is to use it. So that way you will directly learn it immediately. So if you keep on reading it, you won't learn actually. So the best way to learn is to use it. Okay, celebrity dot. Now index of, right? Index of. Now which character of Shah Rukh Khan you want to know the index of? Tell me any line, any letter, any one letter, and it will return the position of that, like 0, 1, 2, 3. Tell me any character. Let's take R. Okay. Okay. So now again, index of function returns an integer, right? So you have to store it in integer, or you can directly print it to console, but I want to go very slowly. So index is this. Now how do I know the output? The only way to know the output is either debugging or system.println. So debugging we will see later, this much more advanced. So I'm going to show you how to see its output. Okay, so I can write the whole thing or just print the index, but just for the sake of readability, I'm printing everything elaborately. So the what I'm printing, you have to write it. The index or position, right? Position of celebrity. Oh, okay. Actually, position of R, right? In celebrity plus equals index, right? Okay, so if I run, what would be the output? Can you tell me beforehand, before running? What is the position of R in the name? Starting with 0. Count. So always remember is the first occurrence. If there are multiple R's, it will only consider the first occurrence of R. That means the first R position. Yeah. Yeah? I didn't hear.
It would be 6. 4,
6.
5, 6. Yes.
6. Okay, let's see. I say 6 is wrong.
Okay, 1.
I think
2,
it's
3,
5.
4, 5, 6.
5 is correct.
5.
Because I told you 0
Okay,
is the
yeah.
starting position. So 5 is the position of R in Shah Rukh Khan is 5. Okay.
5.
0 always in Java, array index is 0. Starting position is always 0. Remember that. Okay. So in different programming languages, different starting positions will be defined. But in Java, mostly it is 0. Either it's an array or index. Okay, so now we have we will be seeing more of these functions. Okay, so before this, I'm gonna note
So
down.
if I take age, take age, so there is 2 age. So how it will count?
That's what I'm saying. Okay, first occurrence of H. Okay, so there is a H here and there is H here, there is H here, there is H here. 4 H's, right? So the what is the first H? This H, right? So let's print the index of H and see. So what is your answer? Tell me and I'll run it. What is the first H index?
1.
1. That's it. 1. So it will always take into consideration the first occurrence. There are other methods which will also say what occurrence you want, like second occurrence or third occurrence. Okay, second occurrence H is what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? 8 or 9, I think. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. Next is 8. Then 9, 10, 11. Next is 11. Oh, sorry. Next is this one. 0, 1, 2, 3. 1, 3, 10, something. So you can always say the which index. So there will be functions, overloaded functions for that. Let's see. Index of. Okay. So now if you see, here. If you use this one, it will return the position of the nth occurrence of a letter in a given word or sentence. So this is it from index. So where you want to start. So by default, it starts from the beginning. Okay. So if you want to start from the middle, you can choose that function. So you can explore that later. We are going to explore those functions later on. Okay. Now we will see a concept called reusability. Okay. So how we are going to see that? I'm gonna create another package called library. Okay, so by default, library means what? I'm gonna store some methods and distribute them or use them. That's what library means, right? Okay, so I created a library and create a class called math. Okay, math is fine. I think math is not a keyword. Okay, yeah, math is not a keyword. Okay, now if you observe a difference in all other classes, I created a main function automatically by default. At the time of creating class itself, I created a math, this one, right? So in this case, I did not create. So did you see here? So here, all the execution is occurring in where? Inside the main here. Oh, I think these tools are not working. Okay, I was thinking these tools are working. Okay, so can you see the tool? No, right? You can't see the highlighter and everything. Okay. Anyway, so all other classes are having the main function. That means I can immediately execute something in it. But in the math, because I'm going to create library functions inside it, I did not create the main function because I'm not going to execute the math class as such. So we will execute these functions in separate class called test cases. I'm going to create another class called test case. And in the test case, I'm going to keep the main method so that I can execute it. So we will come to this later, but first we will do the same math operations, define the same math operations that we did in the arithmetic, but in a reusable manner. Okay, that means the very word reusability means that you're gonna define or create one time, but you can use them many times, multiple times. Okay, which basically saves time, right? So reusability is good. Okay, now I'm gonna create a function. So this is called same function for addition. Okay, but in a little bit different way. Okay, so before I showed you how to use the functions, like different functions we have used, length, index of, right? All those functions, substring, those functions are called built-in functions. That means they come by default with the system, Java. When you install them, they will come. But I am trying to define my own functions. Hence, they are called user-defined functions. Okay, so this is a difference. Before starting, I will just make notes of something. Okay, always class name starts with capital letter. Okay, method name starts with small letter, but each new word with capital letter. Okay. Now variable name starts with small letter. Okay. And each new word, same thing, same story for the variable also. Each new word with a capital letter. So that's called camel case. Okay. And some more points I wanted to mention. Okay, just remember that each class will start with a package declaration. Any imports will come here. If we don't have any imports, don't see them. Okay, user-defined functions and built-in functions. So built-in functions, these are system functions that come along with Java installation. Okay, user-defined functions are those functions which user creates them. Okay, they're not by default, the user creates them. Okay, so addition is the first function we are going to, and I already told you there are 4 types of functions, that 4 types of methods or functions. One accepts, returns, accepts, do not return, do not return, do not accept, return, do not return, do not accept. And this will, signature will look like this. And definition, we can, inside we can put definition. Okay. So public int add integer a integer b. Okay. Now that is a signature of the function add. Okay. I'll explain what it means. What means what. Okay. So it is just complaining it doesn't have a return statement. Okay. We can add return statement later, or let's define it first, and then so I'm gonna define integer abc, c equals to a plus b. Okay, that's the definition. Now I am gonna return the sum of those, which is c. Okay, so this is the user defined function called addition, and the return type of this is integer. So public means I can call this function anywhere within this project Java tutorial. Okay, if I make it private, that means you cannot access this function called add except for this same class. So just to make it accessible anywhere, I am making it public. So in some cases you have to make some functions private also. Okay, it all depends when. So security wise, private are more secure, but public accessibility is more. So I'm gonna access this. That's why I'm declaring this as a public. Okay, and this method add is returning integer. Okay, and it is accepting 2 arguments called integer a and b. And what is the main purpose of this addition? Addition itself, right? So I am just adding 2 numbers. What numbers? Whatever is passed. These values I want to pass this at the time of calling this function, and I want it to return its sum. Okay, the sum of a and b is a plus b, which is stored in the variable of type integer as c, and I am simply returning c. So just remember that whenever you mention a return type, you have to return, otherwise it will throw error. So if I do not return, it will say return type is missing. See, the method must return a return result of integer. Okay. Okay. Now this class cannot be executed as such. Why? Because it doesn't have main. See, when the class doesn't have main, the run statement, run configurations is there, but it doesn't have run Java program, right? That means you cannot execute it per se. So I want to execute this in the test case. Now let's see how we can execute. Okay. So whatever I want to execute, I have to put it in the main, right? I'm gonna just make a note of it. And if I want to access this math add function, I have to instantiate this math class, and using that instance I have to call the add. So that's exactly what I explained before, instantiation. In order to call a non-static, this is the non-static function. If I say static, this function is non-static. If I say static, I have to mention static keyword here. Okay, so we are going to see static and non-static both, but one at a time. So this is the non-static function. If I want to call this in a different class, we must create an instance of the class like this, and using that instance, val is the instance, val dot add. Okay, that's a function. Simple. Okay, let's try and do that. So test case and library, just remember this, right? Okay, so before this, I'm going to explain. I already explained some of this, but let's explain more later. Okay, so first I wanna access a method from the math class. So first and foremost, in order to access, I have to instantiate. So how would I instantiate? Instantiation. Class name, all right, and instance name, let's call it M, equals new keyword. New keyword actually instantiates this class. So new means it is creating a new instance. So all you got to use is a new, and then its class name and constructor. So basically this is a constructor, default constructor math. I will explain what the constructor is, but just remember that. So this is how we have to instantiate a class. Okay, so it's not visible. That's what it complains. So why it is not visible? This math is in library, right? And test case is in tests folder or package. So in order to make it accessible, okay, what I have to do? In order to make it visible, I have to import that package. Now the import. What I have to import? Import library. Okay. When I import library, automatically this is accessible. Okay, it still says not visible. Library dot math. Okay. So I have to explicitly import it. So otherwise I can use dot star. So dot star will automatically import all the classes, but it's not advisable. So I'm going to explicitly import, and as and when I imported, the math class is accessible, no error. So just remember that the yellow color, this triangle means it's a warning. Red color means error. No color means everything is fine, green or something. Okay, so why it is complaining, why it is giving warning? I declared it or I instantiated this class but never used it. Okay, so it's just complaining about that the value of the local variable m is not used anywhere. Okay, so as and when you start using it, which I am going to, it will go off, warning will disappear. Okay, so math has what function? What is the function that is defined just now in the math class? What is the method name?
Method name is add.
Add, right? So what I'm going to do, you have to remember. Okay, you don't forget. What do you want? That's what you have to remember. What do you want? I wanna add two numbers, so I have to call that method add. So how I am gonna call it? Using the instantiation. So I have instantiated the math class, and the math class instance name is m. Okay, now using m dot See, automatically the add is available. So now I'm gonna select it. Now what it is doing, it is asking me to enter the values which you want to add, right? Now I can enter the values dynamically. So this is how the real programming looks like. So dynamically you are entering these values. So whatever I explained before, that is the basic stuff. This is little bit advanced. So just try and think of, I mean, differentiate between both of these, but mostly we will be using this approach, the reusability approach, right? So what do you want to add? Okay, tell me two numbers, two integer numbers which you want to add, and we will pass these. So I am basically passing the parameter values, right? So tell me two numbers. Tell me two numbers. When I ask a simple question, you have to answer quickly so that we can move fast. So add is a method, right? So add method is accepting how many arguments?
Two.
Two arguments. Two arguments of type what?
Integer.
Integer. So it is asking you to enter integer, and it's, if you don't enter integer, its default value is 0. I told you, right? Integer's default value is 0. So I want you to enter something. So tell me some numbers, any random numbers. We will see.
7, 9.
9. Okay. So we want to add 7 and 9. So don't worry about basic 7 and 9. That's not the point. You already know the 7 and 9, addition of 7 and 9. I am trying to create a program which automatically adds 7 and 9 or whatever number I enter. So that's the whole point here. So 7 and 9. Now this is gonna return some value, correct? So what it is gonna return? It is returning the sum of these values, and I have to, whenever something returns something, I have to store it in a variable of same type. So let's call integer sum equals. Okay. Now sum has some of these two. Now, unless until I print it to console, I don't know what its value is. So I'm gonna print it. System.println the sum equals sum. Okay. Now these values I added at the calling time. So whatever the sum is, I'm gonna see just for checking the value. So now let's run it. Run the test case. So sum is 16, correct? Okay. So same approach, but little bit differently. Reusability. So before, what we did, we have created the variables, assigned the values to them, and added these right within, and then printed. Okay. Now in this different approach, library and test case approach, I have created a function. Okay, one time. Now in the test case, I can call this function as many times as I want, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a sysout also inside, so that I don't have to explicitly print it. So I'm gonna print it and return it. I can do that. So here I'm gonna print a little bit elaborately, because as I said, this is a reusable function. I don't have to touch this again unless and until I want to modify it. Then we can reuse it like any number of times. So the sum of plus A plus and B plus equals plus C. Okay, so that's the whole statement. That's gonna print the result of the test case. Here I don't need this anymore, right? Okay, and I don't need integer return. I don't need to return also. I can directly call it. Okay, but I'm returning. So let's use this example one time. Okay, now simply I wanna add some more numbers too. So I'm m dot add 1, 3. Okay, so what I'm doing here, I'm reusing them. I created one time, I can call as many times as I want. Add, let's add the bigger numbers. Okay, m dot add 0 comma anything, m dot add. Okay, but you have to enter integers only, so just remember that. You can enter both negative and positive also, so let's use minus this number and positive number. M dot add, let's use both negative. All right, but there is a limitation to it, like I told you in the beginning. The integer accepts only, yeah, minus 2 billion to plus 2 billion. Okay, so just it's still a bigger number, billion. Okay, so let's try and execute, right? So the reusability concept is you define the function one time, which is this, and use that many times, which is this. So if I run this, it will show the output. Okay, so whatever is the sum, it's clearly displaying what you are adding and what is the resultant. Okay, the sum of so and so 0 and this is this. I can immediately verify the sum of this and this is this. Sum of this and this is this. Minus and minus is yes, negative. So that's the reusability. So likewise, we can create more functions. Okay, so I want to create another function called subtraction, right? So I can just copy paste subtraction or subtraction. Yeah, that's all. Or you can simply call it difference. Okay, so the function name is difference, and I'm gonna subtract a from or b from a, or whichever you want. The difference of a and b, c, and return c. Okay, now we will see the same thing in the test case. So how would I call difference? Using an instance. What is the instance of math class? M. Okay, so using M, I am gonna call them. So these are all sums. Addition. So same operations, different approach, which is reusability. Difference or subtraction. M dot difference. Okay, so what I wanna find out the difference of 5, 6, which is 1. So M dot difference. Okay, I wanna find difference of minus sum. Okay, bigger number minus smaller number. M dot difference of smaller number minus bigger number, which is going to be negative. M dot difference of 0 and some number, which is negative again, negative of 343. So M dot difference of negative and negative. Okay, so let's see what that comes. Okay, so now let's run it. Okay, so the difference of 5 and 6 is -1. Okay, 5 minus 6 basically first, and this is this, and 0 and 343 is minus 343 and blah blah blah. So you can verify that. So before that, I want to print separate banner so that you can distinguish between two of them. So sys out, I'm going to call it addition. All right. Okay, so addition is that, and if I want to take new line character, I can put this \n and always put inside the quotes so that it will be considered as string. \n will take the new line character, so extra line, you can see. So same for difference also, I can. Okay, now we will rerun this and see the difference. Okay, so isn't it nice? It actually displays them very clearly. So the addition is so and so and difference is so and so. Okay, we will create 3 more functions and call it a day, I think. Then we can learn more. Okay, difference, then multiplication. So I'm going to create multiplication or product, right? Public int product. So we can also create the same functions with different data types, double, which will accept the floating points with the decimal point. Okay, that's for you or next class, but this time we will only create integer a and integer b only. Okay, so integer c equals a and b, and I'm just gonna return c. Okay, and before returning, return should be last statement. So whatever you're gonna put, like print statements and all those, you have to put before return. So sys out the product of what? A and B. So just watch how I'm doing it. You will get used to it. So I'm just segregating the variables from the string. So product is C. Okay, so how I'm gonna execute or call this in a different test case using the instance. So I'll just use the same banner and call it product. Okay, tell me some numbers which you want to find the product of. M dot product. So 1, 3. So the result is, you know, what is the result? 3. M dot product 3, 6, 18. M dot product. Let's take a bigger number. Okay, M dot product. Let's take a positive and negative, positive and negative, and M dot product negative and negative. Oh, sorry, negative and negative both. And one last, M dot product 0 and some positive. So which will be 0, we already know. So now let's run this and see. So don't worry, I'm going to share these programs with you so that you can practice, but you have to install them, download them and install them. So you're going to do that and let me know how it goes. So that's a product of 1 and 3 is 3, 3 and 6 is 18, and 0 and so is 0. Okay, so one last is division, right? So all I can do is just copy and paste and modify. So that will be easier for me, right? So that's most of the developers are gonna do it. So we are gonna do it too. division. So I'm going to call it division or divide, right? So divide A with B or B with A, and I have to get its quotient. Quotient of A, quotient when, right? A is divided by. So let's keep the English proper so that it's very clear in the output and input. So C is the quotient and I'm returning the C. Okay. So I'm going to call this in the test case. So here, this is called division and division. Okay, so give me some examples. M dot divide. So I want to divide 4 with 2. What's the result? 2. I'm going to divide bigger number with some smaller number. M dot D, oh sorry, difference. Just keep in mind D, both start with same D. So D, okay, let's divide 23 with 12, 232 with 12. M dot divide. Okay, so it's automatically taking difference. So when I type this, and I have to select divide, otherwise it's gonna, and it's already with a negative number. M dot divide. So this time I'm gonna divide 0 with 23, so that would be 0. M dot divide, and this time I'm gonna divide some number with 0. You know all the what is the result? It's infinite or undefined. So this is gonna throw an exception, okay, which is a different topic. I'll tell you in the next classes. So let's try and run that. Okay, so division 2, 4 is divided by 2 gives rise to 2, and so forth. Okay, so this is all perfect. So just remember that this is the integral part, decimal part is ignored. So if you want to check the decimal part, you have to take the double, okay, that we will see in the next class. When 0, something is divided by 0, it is infinite. So in Java, it's going to throw an exception called arithmetic exception, divide by 0 exception. That means, hey, you cannot divide anything by 0. So we have to handle this in the exception handling, which is basically to incorporate the try and catch block. So we will see that later. So for now, I will comment this. Okay, so I will run it again and show you the output once. Yeah. So this is the whole output: addition, difference, product, and division. So we can apply the modulo operator also. You can create one function for modulo operator and call it, right? And that will be for the next class. Okay, so control I will nicely align this program. Okay. So today we have learnt basic arithmetic operations and string manipulations and how to create a library functions and call them in a test case, right? So, and next classes we will see more of logic using for loops, if conditions and else conditions. All right, so it's already late for you. I'll call it night. Any questions? Did you understand the first program in Java? Is it too difficult or easy?
I feel like it's going too fast.
I mean, it will take some time, but don't worry. So all you have to do is practice. So just install this Eclipse and practice. I'm going to send these in the mail, but going forward, I'm going to share this program. I mean, whole program is zip file. So I'll tell you how to import them. But before that, we just type it. Okay, when I send the program in the zip file, you have to import it from here. So this is statement import. I'll show you in the next class. All right then. Good night, everyone. I will see you in the next class. Bye bye.